Okay, hello everybody. How are you? Yeah, so bit of a Spanish field, bit of a Spanish feeling piece. I thought we'd open with. Yeah, what I want to talk to you about tonight is this this key to unlocking creativity. I mean, I got this from Alan Moore, you know, the comic book artist. Sort of, you know, like big long hair, big long beard. It sounds like he's from the Midlands when he actually speaks. I'll post a link to the actual video. But I saw this thing, and he was talking about like how to unlock your creativity if you're a writer. They were saying like, don't limit yourself to reading good books. You need to read a few bad books in order to progress. Because the reasoning on that being that if you're just reading good books all the time, then the temptation is you're gonna want to do like stuff in that style. You're gonna want to plagiarise it, you know. So you're going to be accused of like copying, and it's not going to be very original, you know, in what you're putting out there, and you end up with this big sort of echo chamber, you know, where everything is sort of like the same. Whereas if you actually read some like not so good books, then you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not actually going to repeat what he said because he used a few expletives, but he was saying, well, this is dreadful. You know, who in the right mind commissioned this garbage? You know, and then it's not just a case of saying, well, this is dreadful, because then because you've got this. If you're already a bit creative, you should have this mindset where you can actually start to outline, you know, where it's gone wrong, and what you would do differently, and you know, how you could improve on it, and before you know it, you bridge this gap between like something which is more accessible to the public and all this sort of heavy worthy sort of literature which has been plagiarized to death, and not many people actually are being that critical about it anymore. But I mean, I was just thinking about that though, and we could be applying that to music as well, you know, and the guitar. That, to be honest, I don't know about you, but at the moment I think that we're kind of like we seem to be in this sort of like this this era where music just seems to be repeating itself. Like I say, it's sort of this sort of echo chamber. You know, one guitarist will put something up, and then somebody else will put up something different. It always seems to be like covers of like the same solos or the same riffs, or you know, like the same techniques. You know, like how many times have you seen that? How to improve your picking speed, how to improve your sweep arpeggios, blah 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 blah. Whereas if you actually then start looking at it sort of like critically, you know, I mean, like, you know, I'm not gonna name any names of like, you know, like sort of terrible guitarists or terrible bands or whatnot. But I'm sure you may have been, you know, like in a music shop somewhere, and there's been somebody trying something out, normally like a youngish lad or something like that, and he'll just be like, he'll just be playing all you know, like these, you know, he'll be just playing the same old stuff over and over, you know, the usual music shop stuff, and you think that's bloody awful, you know, but nobody actually goes over to him and says, sorry mate, you suck. You know, Of course, you know, and then of course, you know, like, yeah, the whole thing. I mean, you know, I mean, I've heard it before. You know, like you're pointing a finger at somebody, you're pointing three fingers back at yourself, and you're pointing your thumb up at the sky. Yeah, yeah. I've heard that one before. If you haven't heard one, that's a good one as well. But when you start developing this mindset of like, well, that sounds bloody awful. But not only that, but you start windowing in on why it sounds bloody awful. And then things like, well, the tone's wrong. It's not in key. The timing's wrong. You know, the timing's awful. It's using cliched licks. It's not. It's more about licks rather than actual playing. It's not playing with any feel, or you know, there's no dynamics in it. It's not very original. It's derivative of stuff I've seen before. Blah 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 blah. And before you know it, you've got this list. So if you start then applying that to your own stuff, you know, I mean, like a good way of testing this one out as well is just just to sit down and and just like just record yourself. I mean, ideally video yourself as well, but just video yourself or record yourself, just playing like for 5 minutes, and then go back through it and then critique it. Now, like I say, I mean, in the past, I mean, I've had comments, that like, talking about how oh, that's awful, and and your timing's wrong and blah blah blah. But never in a million years have I actually seen anybody say, oh, I saw Peter did this video, but I'm just going to correct it because I think it should go like this, and then do their own version of the video with all the points that they'd raised. That's never going to happen. So actually, just getting back to this thing, like with what Alan Moore says, it's all very well for somebody like Alan Moore because he's a success story. I'm sure he could name a lot of like the graphic novels that he's had a hand in, and but it's also like things like the number of channels that are talking about like the Star Wars films being awful. Ooh, somehow Palpatine survived or whatever it is, or like latest Doctor Who, talking about how it's like the narrative keeps slowing down to give you lectures on pronouns and whatever, and to shoehorn whatever into there. But then you find that like if people really were that critical, surely then there'd be like consortiums of like there'd be sort of like independent sort of film studios or independent writers. They'd be setting themselves up, like something to rival those French or European art house cinemas. People like Jean-Luc Godard and Eric Romer, Francois Truffaut, people like that who just decided, well, all these Hollywood films at the moment, they're terrible. They're losing touch with reality. They're not reflecting real life. So we're going to do something like that ourselves. And then and then later on you find that like people like Steven Spielberg are being influenced by Truffaut, and hence why he's guest starring in Close Encounters, and so on. But it's just developing that critical mindset and not being afraid to put stuff out there. I mean, all right, you're going to put stuff out there that maybe it's a bit different. Then maybe the gannets are going, and the vultures are going to pound on it and say, oh, that's terrible because it's not this. But if it's just like couching in cliches and echo chambers, then it's not creative, So I hope I'm making some sense with this, that I mean, and you'll actually find, that this has happened, like in the past, like we actually, bringing it back onto, like with literature, say like in the 19th century, that you'd find, say, a writer like, Charles Dickens will put something out, say like Bleak House or Great Expectations, and then something like George Eliot would come out with something, which is sort of like critique what Dickens was doing, but took it to the next level because it, you know, well, he's missed out on this, or I don't agree with that bit, or you know. And then you also get people like Thackeray as well, you know, and then you get people like Jane Austen there as well, you know, and you know, like something like Northanger Abbey. Have you ever read that? You know, it's because that's a critique of like the sort of, you know, like the Gothic fiction, you know, that was you know, like the, you know, it's critical of, you know, of like, you know, like Gothic literature. So Jane Austen would, you know, being, you know, the sort of clever writer that she was, she could send it up, you know, because like comparing like her day-to-day experience with this, you know, sort of Gothic literature, you know, like, about, you know, like castles and haunted mansions and monks and, you know, whatnot. You see what I mean? So it's just a case of like, if you want to take it to the next level, it's just, you know, how to learn to develop that sort of critical mindset. I think this is something I'm going to come back to you. Sorry, there's something I'm going to come back to for you. But please let me know your thoughts, and yeah, thanks for watching as always. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.